Mayor Bridge is out of the country, actually, with the county making a presentation at a economic development and business retention conference in Memphis, so you're stuck with me today. I wish our other media person was here, because some of us just came back from the FCM conference, and they had kind of a question and answer period and talked about how poorly prepared our MPs and MPPs are with respect to what goes on at the municipal level, and mainly because none of them have served in that capacity. And then there was a chap came off the floor that said he felt it was even more of a problem because of the media, because the media virtually doesn't care or doesn't show up at our meetings, and so therefore the public isn't as well informed as they should be. But I have to beg to differ with that gentleman, and we're very fortunate that we have media here at every meeting, and we get great coverage, and you do a great job of informing the citizens of what's going on here. So
You bet.
you are the exception, and we appreciate you, so thank you very much.
How do they say it? Harumph, harumph.
Yeah. No, well, as soon as I heard that, I said, well, that's not the case here, because we do get good coverage, and we're thankful for that. And obviously, there are lots of municipalities that aren't, and it's important. It's part of being transparent, and you help us be transparent. And I think, again, we're deeply grateful for that. Okay.
Just no pecuniary interest, just confirm
Yeah,
that.
we've already done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
5A.
5A, regular council meeting minutes of May 20th, 2014. Motion by Councillor Turton, second by Councillor Elliott, that the minutes of May 20, 2014 council meeting be approved as circulated. Any questions or concerns with respect to the minutes? Okay with that?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, you do have one corrected page related to comments on the final page 7 of the minutes. And it's just one typographical error
Oh, yes, right.
related to blooms and things
Yes.
with an L.
So that's page 7, actually. It's with respect to support for Dorothy Necker. The original minute said booms and things, and it should have read blooms and things.
But by the way, just in respect to Dorothy, she is now out of her coma and has recognized people and has talked to people.
Very good.
So it's a wonderful news story.
She also is reading out of the newspaper and taking a few steps.
Good.
Nice.
Good, good, good.
Great stuff.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good news. So we'll call the question then. All in favor of the passing the minutes? Opposed? That's carried. Am I supposed to initial that?
This one.
Oops. That was good. Moved by Councillor Faulkner, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Town Council convenes into Committee of the Whole. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Please do an additional item.
Just going to do that now.
All right, item number 6, additional items disclosed as other business. We normally deal with this at the end of the meeting, so do we have any? Yeah,
I have a major one. That's
Major
on
one?
Cemeteries.
Okay, anyone else?
Just one.
I have one as well. Major one.
Major one too? We could be here all night. Too many major events. Okay,
Mine's minor.
so now we're going to move into our presentation then?
Yes. Delegation too.
So we're going to have a presentation by the Burns and Ross, BM Ross, sorry, on
Find it.
Find it, yes. I didn't find it, so you'll have to help me.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, hi, I'm Matt Pearson. I run the planning department, I guess you'd call it, at BM Ross, planning and municipal assistance. I do a lot of municipal assistance stuff. You haven't seen me at council in quite a long time, but I was remembering the last time I was here, I think we were dealing with industrial agriculture, so that's quite a long time ago, before Nutrient Management Act and stuff.
Wow.
We were trying to do a bylaw to slow it down and monitor it, if you remember, because there was no real rules. So that's quite a while. That's maybe the first time I came here.
Could be 12 years ago.
Oh, at least, yeah. But we work all over the place, and Rick's my information management supervisor. So I'm here today, and it's kind of a unique thing. We were asked to come here by staff to not sell you anything, not handle any complaints about anything, things you normally might see us on. Actually, to talk about something you've already done, and that staff seems to be very happy of, and they wanted to share sort of what you've got now, a new tool that you have, and it's called Find It. And we're going to give you an infomercial, really. It's an infrastructure data management program that we developed and customized for your municipality. And it came about through the municipalities, not just you, but everybody in that dirty PSAB process we had to deal with over 2 or 3 years, where you had to go out and value your assets. And the first thing you had to do was figure out what you had. So we were doing at BM Ross lots of inventories of assets to put them together in order to do the valuation. and this was a pretty intense process and took a couple of years. And prior to that, you didn't have asset inventories. You had assets in and out of the ground, but you didn't really know what the whole was like. They were put in over the years, over 50 and 60 and 70 years separately, independently, and because of the timelines in a whole bunch of different municipalities before you amalgamated. So this meant much of the original information was filed away in boxes. After you amalgamate, that's what kind of happened. You put the old stuff away and tried to start new. Forgotten or lost as you started over as one, and over those years since 2000, everybody experienced lots of staff changes too, so you lost memory too. So it was really unfortunate. So as we help municipalities reconstruct their infrastructure inventories, we thought there must be a way to leverage all that work that was being done so it didn't have to be repeated again some other time, and what more value can we get out of it. And the second thing that was an issue at the time, and you'll know all about it, was most of the new data you got was delivered to you in some sort of digital format. I mean, the world went from paper to digital really quickly, and it was just hard to adapt to that. You didn't have the resources, you didn't have the technology. There was AutoCAD, there was Access databases, Excel spreadsheets, photos, and then you heard the GIS word, which kind of all of a sudden it was there. And everybody wanted everything back in that format. So we had to think of a way how we could put all this together and store it and access it easier than trying to find old documents, because that's the problem. I do these big reports for a municipality, and they get stuck somewhere, and then they get put in a box, and then 10 years later you need it, nobody knew where it was. And we had a lot of that in our storage, obviously. So we wanted to have staff be able to simplify the digital stuff too, because you needed to use it. So we developed a data management system, and we called it Find It. Pretty simple. It was all about finding stuff in the midst of everything you didn't have. And it's a pretty apt word. It basically takes all your old data and digitizes, makes it into today's technology. And then we put it into a GIS system, which just stands for Geographic Information System, and it's essentially a system where everything has a relative space in the world. You've heard northings and eastings, that point. You can also do it vertically, but everything has a number attached to their space in the world. And then we tried to make everything relate to that, and by doing that, then we can tie information to an asset. We say asset infrastructure, we're talking pipes, we're talking roads, and locate the information in one place. We work mostly with the smaller municipalities like yourselves, and we know that the system had to be user-friendly. It didn't require complicated software programs that you had to keep buying and licensing, because then you have to keep up with that, and you have to have staff that can do that. And we all know the constraints on that. And it had to be able to be built onto, because assets or infrastructure changes constantly. You're always building new stuff and taking it away. So Minto been working on this for, well, actually started working on it back when we were doing inventories, because when we did your inventories, we kind of GIS'd everything because we knew you'd need it. So we were kind of doubling up on that. And so this one's taken about, not quite 2 years to put into place once we got the approval to go ahead. It's our third installation in municipalities. You're not the only people doing this. First one went in 4 years ago, and it's worked really well. And the fourth one's being installed next week. And they're all municipalities just like you. And the funny thing is, they're in 4 different counties. So kind of interesting. So when you're out, you hear about this, and staff tells you how good it works. Don't be afraid to drop where you heard about this to somebody else, Good Roads or something. But we've done 4, and everybody's really happy with it. And so this time in your system, we have all sort of hard assets. We have water, sanitary, storm, roads, bridges, streetlights, sidewalks, and facilities such as sewage treatment plants and water storage facilities and wells. As you'll see, any documentation associated with the works is included in the system. The design of this is such that that if Brian's talking about a sanitary sewer number 1036, then Gord can access 1036 in his books, and he can find its place in your asset management program. So we made sure as we went along that everybody stayed on the same identification, and that way you can move amongst these different things, because the books are done in one format, and the asset management plan was done another way, and then we have your inventories. So we kept all that together. The system's expandable, and we would expect staff become familiar with it, and they'll find other areas they might want to put into a database like this, and other uses for the existing information, because you don't know the power of it until you see what you've got. So Rick's going to give you a short presentation on the abilities of the system and the strengths of being able to find it.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So we'll go into what we've created. We have there's 2 ways to get into the information. One is mapped, which makes sense. You're a space-based organization. You have things in different locations. And the second is just people like to work with maps to see things. The other way is through a database, which I can show you. I'll show you after the mapping. So when the application opens, so this is a map viewer program that's installed on each person's computer, and it opens, at the showing all of the municipality. And then as we move down, now Matt mentioned the assets that are in there. We also received the table of contents listing all of the information that's in there. We also acquired the aerial photography from Wellington County, as well as their planning and zoning information, so that you can see that information in context of your own assets and the aerial photography. And then as we move in to the mapping software, and more items become available as the scale as we come more in to see more detailed information, and other information will disappear because we're too far in. And then really what sets this apart from other mapping programs, that is, as we move in, we've been able to associate the documents that we talked about. So I've just selected, we're at a large, so we're at the Harrison level, and as we expand, we can find information about project sort of level information. So for example, I've clicked on one job that was done recently, and we did some sewage upgrades with the force main. And so as I say, what sets us apart is you can click on the map and you can actually get the document. So this is the screening report that was prepared for that project that would list, all of the options considered, how the public was consulted, if you need to find that information. So it's associated at the project level. And then as we keep moving in to the data, zoom in more, the air photo has come on. If I keep moving in further, what you can see here is the parcels have turned on, as well as the label for the civic address has come on. So we've created that as you move in and out, information is there, visible, and at the scale that it's most useful. We would need to see all.
Sorry to interrupt, I just wondered on this particular site here, you've got some red lines on there. What's the significance of those?
So these would be these are some of your assets, some of the
The water line and
pipes.
that? Yeah.
These are actually showing, these two lines here are the force mains from William Street to the lagoons. So that's what we're looking at right here. The different colors are shown, so here's sanitary lines are this brown color. And, okay, red.
It's colorblind.
I'm colorblind.
I've prompted him on the brand.
So we've zoomed in now, we can see one of your facilities. So we looked at project level information. Now we're kind of drilling down into the data. If I click on a facility now. So this is the generator building for the pumping station. As we expand down to links, these are all of the documents then that are associated with that facility. So that's what I meant by your space-based or place-based organization. You might as well file information with that location. So if you want to look back and see, you know, when this was built, or there's been a number of projects on this facility, so it's nice to be able to see the history. This was an early one, so this is your certificate of approval from the Ministry of Environment. So say just by clicking on them, loads them. If you want to see who did the work, how much did it cost, you can open the payment certificate, which lists all of your items. So was that, you know, what was installed through this contract versus another contract? You can say who did the work, what it cost. So these are the type of documents that can be linked there. Any digital, so a video, audio, pictures, anything that your computer can launch can be attached to a particular asset.
For you, Mr. Mayor. The question then is the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. So our staff are trained, and the computer is it user-friendly to put input?
So, developing this on a big basis, is probably sort of think about that question, because if you crash or put the wrong thing into this thing, it will be a crash. If a quick crash, you could corrupt the database, and you spend a lot of money.
Exactly.
So it's actually locked down to some degree. So your staff or anybody's staff can't change the main data, so they won't crash it. So user-friendly that way, because you don't want to be afraid using it.
No.
That you're erase something. So, you know, that's a tough decision when you're talking to a municipality. You want to sell them something that they really can't have total control of. You don't. There are places in here we're going to talk about where staff can add things to it, repair records and things like that. You can't crash the program. And so what that means is that on a regular basis, and the other municipalities are on a yearly basis, you take whatever work you've done, and depending on how the data was collected, it may only take a couple hours to update for a whole year's worth of work. So if me and Ross is doing a road job in a municipality, we've got that thing digitized, so it easily goes into this without having to spend a lot of money doing it. Or if you, and this just happened, so you just did a road study. We did Triton Credit. So me and Ross did
Burgess.
But by having the information recorded in a certain way, we were able to take that information there and download it all in the air in a couple hours. That's simple.
So your company does the input?
Yeah, we do. We had to make a call somewhere to
Okay,
lock
that's
this
all I
thing
need to
down.
know.
Yeah, that made it user-friendly to people that have.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we set up a system for staff to keep track of changes, improvements. You know, if a material type wasn't input the first time, you know, they can put asset ID, you know, 106, and it should be this material or this date. That can be added at the same time. So if I just pan over a bit, zoom in a little more, so say more data's come available. And then any asset that, that is in there, you can click on it. So I'm clicking on a street light. Over there. Wanted to be high enough. So if you click on a street light, it'll tell you the information down here, the basic asset information, so the type of light, the head, wattage, year installed. So if this information exists, it was put in. And then this unique ID, so that if there's a conversation about this light needing repairs, everyone can be using the same, there's no, it's a second light in or none of this. It has a unique ID that everyone can use. I pick on a water main. So same thing. It tells you what the material is, the year installed. This is all information that you would have needed for your asset management plan, because material and age is what drives replacement need as well as condition.
You were asking about colors that in there, and so we've got, each one of those is a sewage, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, water main. They're all there. You can click on every one of them to get their asset information, which is really useful. It's all in one place. Because we're all put in different years. If you go to a contract drawing, you won't see all that. You'll see all the old stuff will be all gray shaded stuff. It's all in one place.
Sorry,
Through you, Deputy
Councillor
Mayor.
Caldwell.
Thanks. Just to follow up on Councillor Faulkner's question, so we replace a piece of pipe in that area. Do we then, have we the ability to put in the new pipe and take out the old, or once again, is that all done at year end?
Correct. You can put in a note that you replace section 1052, and say you made it bigger. And then next spring, you do this all at once. You have a list of top dates. You change the data. So you're right. Nobody else can go in and change the data.
Now, does this tie in at all to our accounting system? So does it reduce the value of what was in there before and add the new asset value?
No.
No?
You can't at times. The accounting software is different software, except by asset ID. So we'll both be working on the
Okay.
same piece, so we'll make confusion there. But we can,
You kind of got, you've got a city law, financial stuff, and it's got the good thing is, those numbers like 11, 19,
Right.
Yep.
they're now common IDs, so these days we'll see that section away.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things like, financials on that, and now that we've got road studies and all that, anticipated, the anticipated year replacement and all that, is an exercise of where it's at. It's kind of like database and manual process. But the common one is
I'm not, I just don't necessarily feel comfortable with saving all this data till year end and then, putting it in.
Probably won't hurt. If you only do, being a Canada, you only do construction for 7 months, you kind of do it, and so catching up is not a big deal. Mostly, you're not, you do a few projects, your list of projects isn't as long, it's pretty compact. And, before some parent kid loss, we've been for 4 years now, it seems to work. They do, they're like you, same size, same type of jobs, and it seems to work. The one thing you were alluding to, is it a one push figure and things happen all over the place? We haven't got there yet, that's for sure. And really, we're not sure you want to be careful connecting your county to this, because this gets screwed up in the balance of your system.
Right.
This sits independently on your system.
Councillor Turton.
Thank you, Mayor Fisk. Our Deputy Mayor Fisk, I really like the concept because I know the stack of paperwork that's after the project's done. I mean, you got this big pile of paperwork that you put on the end of the shelf, and 50 years from now, you go back, where'd the paperwork go? You dig the paperwork out where this here is putting it in a data log or a historian, whatever you're talking, it's a great idea, as long as you can access it. Comment. So the second thing is, are we purchasing, I know that what we've already purchased, are we purchasing a service? Or are we purchasing a package?
So what you bought is our time and material. We already have the concept of how to bring this system for them. And we customize that to you. There's no year to have on the chart. There's no license, I guess.
Yep.
So you bought this, you've got this. So your only ongoing cost would be whatever time and material it would take to enter together. It could be $50, or it could be $2,000, depending. Or you may want to add a whole new section of things like, one thing I've always had, at least pick it up, you have the parks. So,
Yeah.
you know your parks. So you get to go out and do inspect them and make the report conditions, it's all with risk and liability. And that all gets put somewhere. But, doesn't even pictures. They always pictures all the time. I would think this is the place to put that.
For sure.
But that's another project.
Map.
Yeah, there is a ongoing, has to be updated every year. That's it, there's no $5,000 a year license or whatever.
That's good. Thanks.
CO White.
I just wondered if the properties themselves are active, so could we put information in on individual properties?
Yeah, the functionality is there. So right now, the parcels are there through Wellington County.
Yeah.
So they have roll
Identifiers.
number and civic address.
And so will that tie into Keystone, our financial software?
Not like this. Not like that, but they'll be the same ID. So
Okay.
on a parcel now, different parcel, we've got, whatever we've got, impact. So once in a while, probably yearly, you might change your impact as much as you want. So we've got owner's name and information. You can expand that information in
Right.
whatever you want. And if you tell us, we'll put a slot for it with the original information in it. We can work with that. So if you, but it's not tied in like that.
Okay.
So I get to follow up on CO White's. So Gord, 119 or 1119
Right,
on this system is the same as 1119 on your system.
that's
That's-
right. And
that's all.
that kind of came, like, I know Master project, but
We set that up,
Yeah.
well, as I said, as we're doing all this work, how to leverage it further? Well, working in GIS, we need a unique ID. So we started that with, and what's unique, everything is the road. So the roads are all split into sections, and there's pipe matching section, and it all matches up with your PSAB and matched up with your ANT. Yeah.
But yeah, so if you know the road section. This one, I think, is some financial asset management benefits, and that's your thing. Mainly, I think, public works, it should help in like repairing. Yeah, we always say, when you're setting our budget, okay, the roads that, what's
Sorry to ask so many questions now.
We're just gonna.
Cemeteries, the mapping of the cemeteries can go on that system as well?
This one gets brought up a lot, but the cemeteries are often kept on a map in the back of the door with the red pencil crayon and black pencil crayon. So I mean, you could do a lot of cemeteries, you could go GIS everything, and attach information to each plot. But it'd be great. One of the downsides, of course, is you've got the history, all the legacy stuff, right? So that has to be collected. As opposed to the new stuff's easy once you set it up and put the new stuff, but it's all like this. We were going back as far as, whatever information's here, that's what we had in our files or staff was able to provide. So it's probably not 100%, but back as far as we did. Going forward, we'll catch everything.
Councillor Caldwell.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Fisk. I'm sorry, but I've always got this fear of the unknown. You're throwing around a couple of numbers for the update procedure on an annual basis. Like, you know, can you give us an estimate? Are we talking $1,000 or $20,000 a year?
Not talking 20.
Ever? That even,
Unless you have a new project, so we're going to do a cemetery project, I was thinking it's $20,000, but it's probably $1,000.
okay,
But the updates, on the material, we have the GIS technicians.
Right.
Do that, saves you having, you don't have to have a technician in the GIS. Where's the GIS, but database, relational database.
but you talked earlier and you just mentioned, well, that took 2 hours to
Well,
download.
2 hours is like $130, that's the
Okay.
tech time, but if that's all it is, that's all it is. Try to keep it simple, and we could have gone to a, if it was a good entrepreneur, we go to a licensing system, you do a bill for $5,000 a year, if we did $1,000, so that's, you have to do that. There's nothing going stale here that you got the program's not.
Okay.
And you don't have to buy anything extra to use it. The way you read it on the staff computers is actually pretty readable. It's down in GIS, so it's a weird program. You don't have to buy GIS. It's funny, a few years ago, Rick and I were down in a municipality down south, and talking to a CEO and the works department guy about doing this. And that was a great idea. And he said, "Oh, we got GIS." And the CEO goes back to them and comes out with a box, a GIS program that they bought 5 years ago, and they still never moved it. You don't have it. And every time, I know the cultural stuff we've done in our company, they put all that GIS up on your website now. You can click around. GIS is all around, but you don't need to have somebody with that to be a GIS. Because you need more than one GIS technician to get them out of school. It sounds great. Comes works in the summer, but you only test this much knowledge, and you get another supervisor, and that's less. So
No, don't get me wrong, I think this sounds wonderful. I guess it's just this fear that,
yeah, I guess the
you know,
approach
it's,
when we developed was what are all the barriers to doing this? What would make it good for municipality?
so just, you say you have 4 installed, just as an average cost on an annual basis, would they pay a couple of thousand or?
Yeah, no, I got that big here. And last year might have been $60,000, $70.
Okay, all right,
They're fairly accurate.
that sets my mind at ease, thank you.
Yeah, like they did, 3 kilometers of road, and maybe that was it. And the parcels, new parcel there.
Parcel there, but then every year, something like that. Every 4 years or so, they'll be there. Just time. You own the airports. You can access it.
Yep. So I've been clicking on different assets. So I clicked on a sanitary line. We've talked about how we have all the data in there. Just like we clicked on that sewage pumping station to get documents, you can click on an actual sewer line and get documents that are attached to it. So if you wanted to see, what this was built under, this shows you the actual drawing that the line I clicked on was built, right? So you don't have to go searching for it, it's right there. So just like the parcel question, if you can click on it, information can be linked to it. So that it doesn't matter whether it's a pipe or a parcel or a point, like a street light. But we've just built those assets we've talked about. You want to see the drawing? So we just looked at this drawing here. One thing that that is an issue is the age of some of these drawings, and looking at them, a drawing kind of in isolation from reality. So as part of the process, we actually put all the drawings in to the mapping. So I'm expanding down, getting to this this job. And you actually get, the drawing now shown. So this could have been a drawing from 5 years ago, shown with 2010 aerial photography, because often features have changed from when the drawing was done to today. So now you can, if you need to scale off of something that's there now that wasn't there then, you can just measure. There's a measure tool, and see it all in relation to, this was a sanitary job. Well, if you want to see a new water main, where's this new water main in relation to this old sanitary? You can put it all together.
It's 5 years ago, but the drawing could be 35 years
Yeah,
ago.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
things change.
Is that an as-built or a plan?
We used as-built.
Okay. All right.
We pretty much only used as-built drawings.
Okay.
If we didn't link plans to assets unless they're as-built.
Okay.
True.
If I may, just on that point, our subdivision agreements, not that we have thousands of them, but our site plan and subdivision agreements do call for as-built drawings coming after the fact, so in theory, we can continue to load this all in.
Yeah, and, you should ask for them in GIS.
Yep.
They're shaped up, and it's really simple. We're not having to take a paper plan, digitize, and bring it back in, and do this scale.
Yep.
GIS is the same over there, in terms of what's all shaped up.
So the last thing we're going to show you is that, it's all within the map, but there is actually a tool that if you want to switch to view to get your legends and title bars, you can say copy map, and then if somebody needs to add to it or put it in an email or do a report, they can go into Word, and then you get your map. And then there's lots of tools within Word and PowerPoint to mark them up. So it's not just limited to being within the mapping program. Yeah, there's a markup tool within the program that you can use.
So if somebody phoned in with a broken street light, and somebody could call, they could pull the street light up in here, take the highlight tool, mark it up, copy that off with an email, and send it out to somebody to fix it. So that's the process you should use. They all can do it. And it's quick.
Okay, so that's the mapping. The other way in is strictly through a database, and we talked about road IDs. So one of the things, as part of this project, every road is given a unique ID, and then every asset on that road also has that ID, so that we can bring everything together in one place. So this is really, if you know where you're looking for, you come to the database. And so we were looking at Mill Street, so it's all driven by road name, right? So if we pick Mill Street, and we're from Laura to John, okay, then you press select. So then this loads all of the assets on their own tab, so storm, sanitary, water, street lights, okay, you can see them across. And then all the information that we saw through the identified, so this is the same data, it's just presented in a different way. It's not stored in two different locations. We have where the sanitary pipe is from, it's a year, it's type, it's how long is it. And the same drawing we looked at before, you can click on and get your as-built drawing, which came up. Okay, so the same way you can get to it. So everything you can get at through the mappings are here. The one thing you can do here, we talked about adding information, right on the end is repairs. So if there's something, a piece of information that wants to be recorded about that, you can click on add view. It automatically populates with that unique ID, right, of that sanitary pipe. And then you can enter a new record, whether it was backflow or something cleaned out or a picture that you took of a cracked sewer. All of that can be attached to that particular pipe in this way. And this is where staff can record, the information of what they do about a particular property. Yeah, that's right. If someone sends a letter in, you can scan the letter, attach it to that pipe. Your response can be scanned and attached to that pipe or a storm sewer section, right? If one section backed up, and it's all there available. So then we built in some reporting with this, and so this is reading all that information live, and it just summarizes it for you, how many kilometers of pipe there are in the different areas. What type is it? So do you have a mainly gravity system or a pump system? And at the very bottom, we sort of summarize how many meters of pipe was installed in different years over time. This kind of let you see how things were installed, or, you know, in what years might there be big replacements, I guess. Potential, right. It's probably, like, this big blip is Clifford.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
75 years from now, theoretically, all pipe.
Wow.
So that gives, that's sort of high-level summary information that's available through it. And the last one that we were going to show you was that you can look at sort of the raw data. So here's your sanitary lines, kind of in spreadsheet form. If you want to, you can filter it down if you want to see only the. See only the pipes that have been installed, you know, that are over a certain diameter. You know, you can pick it and filter it down. If you want, if people want to do an analysis or further looking into this, you can select all of this data, you know, and take it out to, if you want, Excel. And paste, and there's all your data. You can then make your own graphs, you know, further work, further plans. So it isn't, we talk about being locked down, but we've also, to compensate for that.
The ability to take stuff out of it and do what you want, you know, use the data, and all this type of thing. But you can't hurt nothing.
You can export, you can't import.
You can't import, that's pretty important. So you can just play all, you know, do whatever you want, put it in Excel and stuff you're familiar with. Because most people can't use GIS or access to the stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then the last thing we're going to say is just, you know, from here you can expand it to different assets or different uses. We've had a municipality use this then to populate the one call, the data needed for one call, you know, to highlight those road sections that you'll need to do a locate on. So once the data's in a GIS, it's, you know, flexible.
Cover it. You know, one fire department walking into mapping one location of all the piping. This is probably done on a pencil drawing. Firewall. This is able to pull it out. It's a stuff you already have. It's just another. But as you were coming up with suggestions for stuff, you know, that happens often. And maybe our first meeting with staff on what to do with this, you know, they're sitting there, but they're thinking ahead. What else can we do? What else can we do? And that'll come with time. Like it was a pretty good investment. To get all this in place, it's a really good step. Any more questions?
I have a couple. In Palmerston, we have some sewer lines there that are reportedly 100 years old. So that information is just by guess and by golly, or?
What I might have an assumed year or unknown. But if it was provided to us that it's 100, we would put in.
So it's really just as accurate as the information that's provided to you. That's the bottom line for this whole system.
When you come into one of these and your staff's all changed, you know,
Yeah.
your old roads retired and everything, then you're kind of taking a guess, so you're trying to find sort of common. You went in somewhere between 1955 and 65, well, you picked 60, call it all 60. And Ford had to do that when you did piece that too. It's a commonality. It's good information as we got, and in the big picture, I don't think it really matters whether it's 90 years old or 100 years old.
And the other thing is, just here recently, we had a bit of an issue as to what service we had, or what type of service we had or didn't have in our industrial park in Palmerston. Would this have provided us with the actual rather than what we think or what somebody thought was there?
If we had the original.
If you had the proper information again.
So going forward, I mean, this is going forward, so you know, absolutely right. Going backwards, it's still good, you know, as long as you have the contractor on it.
And then also getting back to the cemeteries, I mean, I think our problem in the cemeteries is we don't know where some of these people are buried, or they're not where they're supposed to be, or whatever. So it's not going to help with that, because the information we have is that so-and-so's there, but they're not there. So we'll tell you that so-and-so's there, so you'll have so-and-so there, but they're not there. So you're not going to be able to sort that out that way, are you? Yeah.
But if I may, on the issue of cemeteries, because we have already put some money to map, we will find those people there may be some uncertainty about going years back. So then we will provide it in a fashion that they can include that. So it will reflect what's actually out there. We'll need to use someone with expertise to find these things under the ground for us to do that. Yeah.
You can attach, contracts and everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's better than the old days. In the old days, again, this person who was nominally in charge of cemeteries and had a handwritten map and he had file folders of paper. My contract with my grandmother's were scared for it. It was a little messy.
Yeah. Any further questions? Well, thank you very much for that informative report. It's, you did mention there's only 4 municipalities using it.
Well, it's only because I
Haven't been,
shopped it out as
no.
many. We can only do so much work too.
Yes.
And it does take some effort. And in between doing all this, people were doing asset management. Last year was asset management plan. You gotta
Yes.
have asset management thing. So it'll grow. We work with a lot of municipalities, so.
Would you have any idea of just an approximation, how many hours went into our plan?
Hundreds, yeah. I mean, your last, so 2 years ago, I think we can estimate to take the information we had from the past, plus all of it is done, was $35,000. So you're talking, $500-600. Obviously, you're using technicians for a lot of this stuff, development part of it. The last, we just did one from scratch for Blue Water, and we have a lot of information in our file, and it's helpful. We've done most of their engineering over the years. And that still took, I think it cost about $65,000 to $70,000 to pull all that together once. It's a good use of the one-time, hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Well, thank you very much. It was very informative.
Find it. It's an appropriate name as well.
It is.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
90A or 90B, or how do we do that now?
Just Pinksy, yes.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a delegation, Ed Pinksy. Did you want to come to the mic, Ed, or? It is item number, was it 9B?
As Deputy Mayor Fisk, if I may, there's also a report from the county planner and county manager of planning and development. Mr. Van Patter, he's here. So you may want to bring those items up after you hear from the gentleman here today.
Okay, Ed, you've got the floor.
Thank you. I just thought I'd make myself available in case there's any other questions you guys had about. We did write a letter after the last meeting and sent it to everybody. Another thing I just want to mention is if, it doesn't go the county way and we can increase, 49 to say, 60 or 70%, does it really change, what's available there? Because it's basically, you're saying you have a doctor's office or, real estate or a lawyer or some sort of whatever. If the apartments were there with the zoning, MU2, those things would still take effect here. I mean, you'd still have two, because it's residential, you still, with the zoning, could still have, 2 offices, a reception area and, kitchen and washroom. Really doesn't change a whole lot. Just makes it a whole lot easier for us, gives us a lot more versatility.
So you're saying that the compromise isn't an option for you then?
Nope, definitely not. I mean,
No.
would prefer it, the way we applied for it, but no, certainly not. The compromise is there, we live with what we have to
Mm-hmm.
and do what we can.
Okay. Any, Councillor Faulkner?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor Fisk. I went over and walked it, and I guess I better do this. I didn't realize before that driveway opens behind, goes right through, right?
Yep.
And so, what are your plans for the surface of the parking area, I guess, and the driveway in behind? I believe the town owns part of that?
Town owns part, and the old Palmer, I believe, owns the other part.
Okay, now what about the driveway behind the building on the corner? Who owns that driveway?
I believe the town?
You know what I'm talking about?
Town owns all that.
The town owns that whole
so,
driveway?
yeah.
Yeah, because there's no reason why that can't look real good back there. I was impressed with it, actually. Thank you.
Anyone else? Did you want to speak to this, Mark, or
I might just have some comments for council.
do you have anything else, Ed?
Nope.
No.
Just want to,
Okay.
if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
I think it's going to be very difficult to be in favor of the OPA because of being a precedent. I think we have to be very careful with that. And it is zoned commercial now. We've heard that maybe there's too much commercial area over there, but that's probably another item for another day. But we'll hear what Mark has to say, I guess, and then we'll have to make a decision on the resolution.
Just quickly, so Deputy Mayor asked you, the compromise isn't what you prefer? Would you prefer the compromise over the 49-50%, or?
I mean, the compromise would be what, 60, 70%? I mean, that's definitely better than 49.
Okay,
I mean,
so-
to have 49% and to, try to get an apartment, in there, especially the way our building's laid out, is very difficult. 60,
So
70
secondary, the enlargement would be preferred than
Yes.
than the original?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And just your comment there, the precedent was not set with the building beside us. It's already residential, totally residential, and it's zoned the same C1.
Which building would that be
Apartment
then?
building beside us,
There's apartment building.
The newer building?
it's zoned the same, so the precedent wouldn't have set with it.
And was it converted, or was it a new
It
build?
was converted,
It was converted?
yep.
Well, we'll maybe let Mark comment on that.
Sure. Yep, sure. Yep.
I just wanted to let council know that you don't have to make a decision today if you don't want to, but county council meets in June. The next time they'll meet is in September, so that's why I brought it forward. It seemed to me, after doing the inventory and receiving the staff letter from Minto staff, and also information about the downtown revitalization and other information from Belinda, that William Street indeed, was an important part of the downtown. When I started this official plan amendment, I didn't really have a good appreciation of what was going on there, but I did go and have a look at it. So that's sort of how I ended up where I am. I just have difficulty supporting it because I think it can set a precedent. Mr. Pinksy just pointed to the building next door as a precedent to allow him. So you get another one, that's another opportunity for somebody to say that. And I think I go back to the official plan. That's really where, my big question is, if this isn't a significant part of the central business district, I could support redesignating it. But my impression is, after I look at it and hear from people, that it is a significant part of the downtown and should be protected. So that's sort of how I'm setting my position. And having said that, I think there is room to work with the zoning bylaw and give the Pinksy some, latitude to get a couple of apartments in the ground floor maybe, and still preserve, the look of the front of the building as commercial, which I think you want to do. Now, none of this is, there's no, a lot of this is just sort of judgment on all of our parts, the best judgment we can make, so it's not like it's a science or anything. So, and council could take a different position than I've got, you're local, you know Palmerston probably better than I do, and you might have a different conclusion than I do, and if that's what council concludes, then I will take that to the, the county planning committee and let them know, that's how council feels about it, but I guess my job as your planner is to let you know what I think first off before you make a decision, so I don't know if I think that's about all I can say.
Okay. So are you familiar with the circumstances around the property beside it and how that was handled?
Well, I don't know the history of that. When I first looked at it, I thought it was a fairly new building,
I would have
because
thought
the
likewise.
facade looks new, but if you look at the corner of the building, you can see the old building in behind it. So it's an old downtown building. At some point, somebody converted it to residential. I don't know if that was before the current
Official plan?
official plan policies were in or not.
Well, regardless, we're left to deal with this on today's terms, so, Councillor Faulkner.
I have a question for you, Mark. Forever's a long time, and if this, we agreed that this could be approved as a residential part, and times change, and all of a sudden, commercial demand in the town of Palmerston becomes, I guess, prevalent. Is there a difficulty in changing it back?
If you went to residential now?
Yes.
I'm not quite sure. I think that does some damage, though. If, between now and then, there's maybe some damage in a precedent set. I would look at it the other way. I think I'd come at it the other way, Councillor Faulkner, if over time William Street were to degrade and there was hardly any commercial use on, and it became a less important part of the downtown core, then I think if someone came forward and wanted to redesignate an official plan, I would probably support it at that time. And the same for James Street. When I looked at James Street, there didn't seem to be a lot happening on James Street. Most of it was residential. So I think, as I said in my letter, I think, there's a hierarchy there of Main Street being the most important, then William Street, then James Street. And William Street, I think, is important enough to preserve the way it is for now.
Councillor Colwell.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Fisk, I just wanted to add that I think once you change it to residential, you will not change it back. And I think maybe Clifford is an example of that, to a point that, some of the downtown area has been zoned as residential. I don't think it'll probably ever go back to commercial. That, I think we would be setting a precedent with saying that we are going to call that residential, and it will stay that way. I doubt it would be more likely to change from eventual commercial to residential than residential back to commercial, in my mind.
Then at what level, what level of government, I guess, or bureaucracy makes it difficult to change back?
No, I think just once it's used for residential, it will maintain the residential use that's just my point of view.
Yeah.
I have no backing for that.
Councillor Turton.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Deputy Mayor Fisk. You don't even look like Mayor Fisk, or Mayor Bridge, gee. I find that this is a kind of a difficult one. We've got Ed coming forward. He's had some difficulty renting the place for a commercial business, and he's got a bit of a plan. And, it's really easy to say no, and I know that we've had all kinds of dialogue on it, and there's a bit of a compromise. but 49%, if I understand this, we're looking at, and Ed has said that there's 3 distinct properties there on the main floor. Great. And it would it not be pretty difficult to make 49% of it commercial, or is there something I'm misunderstanding?
I don't know if I understand the question.
So instead of saying, no, Ed, it's all going to stay commercial, we're talking about a bit of a compromise.
Yep, in the zoning bylaw.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So, looking at, and I guess maybe I don't understand this. Looking at the compromise, some of it going commercial, some of it staying residential. How would that look like? What would it look like?
I think from the street, it would still look commercial.
Yes.
But basically, I think you'd want to leave enough room at the front of the building to at least have offices and washrooms, either more than one office or just one office, however that worked out. But then, go from the 49% up to 60 or 70%, whatever makes sense. And that's where I think that Mr. Pinksy has to provide the township or the town with a plan of how that would work before the town deals with their zoning on it. So the zoning can stay open, the zoning application can stay open and be deferred until that time.
Okay.
CEO White.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, thank you. At this point, I think council's got 3 options, if I may, and if I could put them forward for you to talk about. One would be to defer this further and ask the planner and town staff and Mr. and Mrs. Pinksy to discuss this compromise further, because I don't think you have information here to decide on the compromise, yes or no. The other option is to support the official plan amendment. If council felt like they wanted to see that whole floor use as residential, then you would need a resolution from the floor here today to go to them in June stating that you're in favor of the official plan amendment and that the county be asked to approve it and that the planner bring back the implementing zoning for that. That's not the planner's recommendation, but that's Mr. and Ms. Pinksy's recommendation to you. I don't believe that's the town staff recommendation either. The third option is that you not support the OPA and you advise the county of that, and that you ask the county planning staff and town staff to bring back the compromise zoning for your consideration, whether it's 60%, 70%, 75%, what that looks like in the building, and so you have drawings and you can understand it together to make a decision on that zoning. That's probably where I think I hear the county planning department's position and probably the majority of our staff people as well. So that's kind of where we fit. So really, not support the official plan amendment and direct county to come back with the compromise zoning in consultation with the applicant and the town staff, or support the OPA and request the county approve it and bring back the implementing zoning. Those are, if you wanted to make a decision, it's one of those 2.
What's the feeling, Councillor Elliott?
I'm worrying about a bit of a deference, because I would like to know what the valid use would be. Would it just be an office, or by coming back to 60%, for example, and making it smaller, what kind of commercial use could be used in there, or would Ed be stuck with a building that he can't rent out, he can't lease to someone because it's too small? Or is there uses, is there retail uses for that size of a place? And or if not, then do we have to leave it the way it is so it's a better retail site to sell, eh? And I don't know what the answer would be, because I don't know what size you would need for, and what you would need for like, could you put a hairdresser in there in that small area, or what could you do?
CEO White.
And if I may, I don't know that we have that hard and fast answer for you, except to say, based on our discussions, and I think they're primarily internal, I don't know how much Mr. and Mrs. Pinksy have been involved in these. I think some discussions with our staff and with the county planner. We think that a compromise can work. We don't know what one.
Okay,
So we feel like there's an opportunity to create some viable commercial in the front, but we don't know the percentage that that would be. So to do that, you don't need the official plan amendment.
all right. That's fair.
So, yeah.
And then you can, as you're planning what's best for both, would be the compromise that you would come
I
up
think
with.
that's what option 3 does for us, is we get more information, and then we can probably make a better decision, or,
We can help out each other.
yeah, and I think we're all sympathetic to Ed and Sandra's situation, and we want to do as much as we can to help, but we also have to keep in mind that the rest of the commercial area and what staff and what the downtown revitalization people are trying to do there. And
Absolutely.
so it is it's a tricky situation, and I think we would all like to have everybody happy. We maybe can't have everybody 100% happy, but if we can get them 70, 80% happy, I think we've done our job, so.
Right. Okay,
Any other
Well,
comments?
that's all I needed to.
So we need a motion, then right now, do we have to turn, we don't necessarily have to turn down the amendment. We can just go to option 3 as you presented it. Would that be?
I think I gave deferment as option 1.
Yes, you did.
You did.
But option 3 was with more information and,
Option 3 was not supporting the official plan amendment
okay,
and asking the planning staff to come back with the compromised zoning. So that would go to the county. The official plan would either be approved or not approved. And Mr. and Mrs. Pinksy can go to that meeting too and talk to county council or county planning committee about it. If it is turned down, then the zoning would come back for you to look at with a more specific floor plan and hopefully a compromise that everyone's happy with, as happy as possible with. Like you say, it may not be perfect, but it is a solution. We think one is there, but we don't have that there for you now, so.
I think that's the, that's the bottom line. We need more information, and again, we want to work with Ed and Sandra, and as well as with our revitalization group and the planners, and go from there. So your plan, was it to be doing something right away quick, Ed, or you're okay with?
We're trying to get something in place so we can plan.
Yes,
So we'll come up with other viable floor plans.
yes,
Viable, so we can bring it back to the water.
yep,
I mean, my concern is, you here have 6% residential back, and then I'll have 40% sitting at the front. I mean, that one sort of rented 2 years now, and there was a turnover goal. The ones that were rented together, and then people try. So my turn out for they'll sit down. Yeah, I would back to the water, so fire, but, washing from them, well, that's not so good.
okay. Did you have a comment, Councillor Caldwell?
No, I was just going to say, I do sympathize with you, Mr. Pinsky, and I feel that option 3 would at least move the process forward rather than waiting until September. I don't think the council feels as comfortable with option 2, which is to accept it as but option 3 at least would move it forward rather than deferring it. And I guess I would like to make a motion
Okay.
that we go with option 3.
Do we have a seconder for that? David? Do you want to?
You want me to read?
Formulate, yes.
And it's just my scratchings here, so.
Well, you're the
Doesn't sound
minute, you're the
exactly like
minute
I said
taker.
it first time, here we go. That the Town of Minto Council not support the official plan amendment for 107 William Street, Palmerston, and that they direct county planning to meet with the applicants and town staff to bring back a compromise zoning for consideration.
Okay, any questions or comments?
When that happens, does that eliminate, now I've lost which option is which, approval of the, does
Official
that
plan.
eliminate the approval of the official plan amendment for future?
If the county denies it, which, then that is off the table. There will be some commercial on the front of this. It doesn't mean he couldn't appeal that decision, or come back in 5 years and say, you know what, we've tried and the compromise didn't work. Now we have to do it. And then it would be a reapplication process.
Councillor Elliott.
Just a secondary thought, you can live in that residential area and still operate a commercial area and go between then. If Ed, for example, rented out his residential area that we decided he could have, and that person was also the person that wanted to run a business in the front, they could travel back and forth, they can be the same person?
Yep.
Okay, so they can live and have a commercial at the front.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't distinguish between who's, in the apartment and who's
Okay,
not.
that's important too, because that might help.
Or if in the future, if somebody wanted to use more of it for commercial and space, that option's there too. The bylaw would allow that to go entirely commercial on the first floor, if that ever were to happen.
Okay.
So what it does is just allows them to go from 49% residential up a bit more above the town standard, moving it up.
Sure.
And giving them more flexibility to come up with a couple apartments.
Okay.
Chair White.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, you haven't voted on the motion, but just to say that the downtown committee, as we speak and in the coming weeks, is looking at increasing the incentives to try and help landowners like Pinksy's to move their buildings forward and get them to a standard that's maybe more available and rentable. I'm not saying that that's not, but facade grants, signage grants, maybe structural improvement grants, those sorts of things may be coming forward out of the discussion we've started through, Belinda's area. So I would encourage them to continue to monitor that and participate in that and see what may be out there, and hopefully we can have those discussions. Because our experience is, if there's good space there seems to be a lot of interest in it, and that goes for pretty much anywhere in our urban areas. I'm not saying this isn't good space, but maybe it just needs everyone looking at it together and see what opportunities are there. And I know it's a challenge for sure, because there's some not so good space down there that we're competing against. But
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Everyone's clear on the motion? Any more comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you. Or Mark, sorry, and Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
We're willing to work with you, Ed, I think is what we're trying to say in a roundabout way, and we're hoping to come to a solution that, like I said, makes everybody happy part of the time, or a good part of the time. Okay?
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Public question period. Oh,
You don't have any questions?
okay, well,
Just in case we ask you.
we'll move on. Correspondence, sorry, yes, C.R. White.
on the correspondence, there was information sent out on the Clifford Community Food Bank. In the process of receiving all the other correspondence, if you could ask for a staff report on that one. That one's in its preliminary stages, and we need to look at how that would work and bring back some terms for you. So,
Like a motion to that effect then?
yes, please.
Okay. Could we have a motion, Councillor Turton? Seconder, Councillor Faulkner? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Minutes.
Reports and minutes, committee minutes, couple of Maitland Valley Conservation Authority meetings there. Any questions? I attempt to answer them. I would just ask you to notice that I asked, I thanked the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority on behalf of the town and the citizens of the town for the way they looked after our best interest during the potential flood. I think it's important to say thanks occasionally, and by the response I got, I don't think it happens too often, so it doesn't cost much to say thanks, and it was pretty well received, so hopefully you're okay with me doing that on your behalf. Any other questions, comments? We do them all, we receive them all at once.
You would- If I may, Mr. Deputy Mayor, if we could receive those minutes. Need a motion to that effect.
I make that motion.
Okay, Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Turton, to receive the Maitland Valley Conservation minutes of March 19th and April 16th. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Launch it, Minto minutes. Carissa.
All right. I have two sets of minutes to present to you today. The first is from April 30th. Just a couple things I'd like to highlight from those minutes. The board did discuss the potential for a housing assistance program. The idea behind this program would be that if we should have businesses who wanted to move to Minto from another location but did not have housing within Minto, we would provide a program that would just assist them to find housing for them. The board thought this was a wonderful idea, so we're going to proceed with that plan. The second thing I just wanted to point out, as you'll see on Schedule A, office number 3 and office number 4, we just have a misprint there. If we could switch the prices for those two offices. So office number 3 would instead be $250, and office number 4 would be $300.
It's a big one.
That office number 4 is it's the biggest, and it also is private as well. So that's why it's a little higher.
Okay, any questions of Carissa? Comments? Okay.
Number 2. The minutes from May 23rd. I am currently working with Treasurer Duff to establish a new budget for Launch It. As we continue, we're learning more and more about where our monies will be allocated, so we're working on that currently. Just a reminder that our grand opening is Saturday, June 14th. Our doors will be open at 10 o'clock from 2 o'clock, and speeches and ribbon cutting will be happening at 11. We are also facilitating a soft opening next Tuesday, June 10th. We've invited yourselves as council, as well as our business partners and chamber members to that event.
That's still 6:30.
Yes, sorry, 6:30 until 8:30. Yes, it's a come and go type. Savor the Flavors has kindly sponsored that event for us. The board discussed rental fees for the boardroom. We will be able to rent out our boardroom. We've decided on $50 for a half day and $100 for a full day of rental. Our first training program will be happening on Monday, June 16th. That is in partnership with Guelph Wellington Business Enterprise Center, and it's going to, it's actually called Stepping Into Business. Sorry, I just saw that typo in here as well as I'm talking to you. I believe it says starting your business in the minutes, and it's actually stepping into business. So we have a representative coming from GBEC to facilitate that program for us on that day. If anyone wants to sign up for that, they can visit the Launch It Minto website, which actually Belinda has put up for us here. We've been working with Awesome Interactive, who helped to sponsor some of that website for us, and we finally have it complete and launched, so people can visit that to find out more information about us. We are also working currently on our mentorship program. We currently have 6 mentors signed up, plus two more. We have a couple of husband and wife combinations, so that's excellent. We've got a very diverse mentorship group, and we will be having a planning meeting with those individuals
Next
on
Tuesday.
June 18th. And we will be starting to sell our business excellence program mentorships in July, which allows clients access to our training, mentorship, coaching, and networking programs. That's it.
Any questions of Carissa?
I'm sorry, just
Councillor Caldwell?
the ribbon cutting on the 14th, what time was that?
11 o'clock a.m.
The ribbon cutting's 11?
Yes, the doors will
Okay.
open at 10
10,
and
okay.
ribbon cutting at 11. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carissa.
Good question, you had that wrong.
Cultural Roundtable. Linda?
Just going to highlight some things quickly. At the last council meeting that I presented on Culture Roundtable, Deputy Mayor Fisk mentioned that someone had a comment towards him about how we should focus and spend our money on fixing roads and all the essentials, water and sewer, etc. At the end of my little brief update, I'm going to show you a little video on why we in Minto invest in culture, and some of the activities that we do are more soft, but why we do it. Okay. So just briefly, Heritage Days is next weekend. You will see in front of the CIBC parking lot, or in front of the CIBC in the parking lot, we have 4 local artists with 10 by 10 tents. So we do have artists coming to add some culture to the street as part of Heritage Days. And we're sponsoring 2 performers in Tannery Park. Kayla McTaggart and Matt Grant will be in Tannery Park playing throughout the day. So that's our contribution to Heritage Days from the Culture Roundtable. We do have a new youth rep on our committee, Megan Raftis, Pat's daughter. Treasures of Minto, new website is now mobile friendly, so if you haven't had a chance to check that out, you'll want to do that. We're working on, while I was away, we had a budget figure for the Culture Roundtable, but they didn't allocate it to certain projects, so I'm working on a proposal for where that money should be spent. Concerts in the park, Taylor's busy working on that. We do have some dates set. As you can see, the Clifford date is August 17th. The Hairston date is July 20th, and I believe she was meeting with the Palmerston Railway Museum, and they have also set their date, and I believe it's July 6th. So those concerts will be coming up. Murder at the Micklejohn, if you missed the last one, you'll want to go this time. It's August 28th. And then for Culture Days this year, we've ran a culture bus the last 3 years. We're trying something a little different this year. We were looking at all the different things that we want to do and could do, but we don't have the manpower to do it. So instead, we're going to take that money that we usually put towards the culture bus and offer it to the groups to fill out an application of what they would present for Culture Days. So Culture Days is a free event, so they need to offer a free event, fill out an application, and then we would give them $200 to help them put on that free event. And we would do all the marketing and promotion. So it doesn't cost us any more, and it puts some of the responsibility onto the groups to come up with programming, as we don't have the manpower to do that. So do you guys have any questions? And I'll quickly show the video. It's not very long. Nope. So this was done by the City of Hamilton. And I just think it does a good job of showing
I got a lot of different answers. But what is it really? What is its value? And why does it matter? So where to start? I live in the city. It has roads, clean water, electricity, police stations, hospitals, schools, but every city has these. What makes Hamilton different? Well, this could be where culture comes in. Let's see. Festivals and events, a thriving art scene, stories and customs, a sense of history, cool architecture, creative talent, public art, and even outdoor places like parks, farms, and waterfalls. These are all considered to be part of culture. All of these things create activity and buzz, a positive energy known as cultural vibrancy. And this vibrancy helps to build community, define neighborhoods, and make the place we live in have a unique identity. It also leads to attachment. People that are attached to Hamilton want to live here. They get involved, and they talk about it. As the word spreads, people come, and businesses too. This attracts more people and then more businesses. Creative talent is drawn to Hamilton, and is already 1/3 of the labor force and growing. I guess you could say that culture is all the things that make life in a place meaningful and interesting. It's valuable because it can promote identity, creativity, tourism, jobs, and growth. And it matters because it contributes to quality of life, creating attraction and attachment, revitalizing neighborhoods, transforming cities, and making communities attractive, open, welcoming, and vibrant. So if we take away culture, then what do we have left? Get culture. Love your city.
So I guess it's great if you just invest in your roads and water and sewer, but eventually who will want to live here and who will be paying for those assets? So these are all, Hamilton has these, we have these in Minto. So we need to keep putting money towards these things and making Minto a unique place that people want to live and grow our tax base so that we can still afford to pay for our roads, water and sewer. So thank you.
Good job.
Well said, Belinda. Councillor Turton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fisk. I think we were at a convention on the weekend, and that's we heard about Hamilton all the time. Hamilton this, Hamilton that, and they came across very, very clear, Belinda. And I know that you're extremely passionate. You've likely looked at that Hamilton video a lot, and it's pretty neat. It really paints a beautiful picture, doesn't it? Like it's well done, and I can tell you that it was talked about a lot at FCM about culture. And I mean, there's a big interest around the province and the Canada about culture, so great stuff.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Parks and Recreation Advisory Minutes, PRAC.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, we don't have staff here if any of the members wanted to summarize.
If I can find my sheet, I would. There it is. Just a couple things. We did go with the option of fixing the, thank you so much, the option of fixing the roof on at the curling rink, and it was the best option that our staff would come up with that they thought would go to it. We tried to stay within budget. It's not in right now, but we expect that it's going to be near or close to what we expected to spend on it. But whatever we do spend, it's going to be worth it because we've been dealing with that problem as long as I can remember. There's always been a problem with the curling rink in Harrison, and it appears we found the problem and hopefully it's fixed. For the rest of what's going on in our area, recreation, we have Heritage Days coming up, we have a concert in Palmerston coming up, and several things that we have to offer. It's just amazing what our communities are coming up with, and Matt and along with Belinda have worked hard to promote our community recreationally wise. Our minor sports are well underway, and as a matter of fact, even though you have a registration day, minor ball till even up to yesterday was signing up kids to play. So, and I know soccer has included a couple more, and it's looks like we're well set for the summer, and our staff are preparing to do it well. Thanks.
Any comments, Councillor Turton?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fisk. I think the problem that, if there is a problem in PRAC, it's our fields, our soccer fields are busy, really busy. Every weekend, something going on. So that's a pretty good thing. So
It is.
And I know the guys are working hard to accommodate everybody, and that's important as well. So
Yeah.
good for you guys and girls.
And scheduling can be a problem because there's so much use. We do have a problem with scheduling, so, and that's a good problem. That means everybody's using the facilities that we put forward and we put our money forward to. And I know we work on a deficit in our facilities, but it's a service that we provide for our community, and I think that's something we've always wanted to do, so.
Do we hear any comments on the quality of the new pitch in Clifford, how it compares with soccer pitches elsewhere?
I have a grandson that plays soccer up in Clifford, and he's his second year in soccer, so he's a goaltender, so he's okay with what's happening there, but his friends are really good soccer players, and they said the pitch is really good for what they had in Palmerston. Palmerston's fine, but this is built for soccer, and they can tell the difference, and they're quite happy with what's happening there.
That's good. That makes it all worthwhile. Any other comments? So we'll approve those minutes then. So could we have a motion to approve the committee minutes? Councillor Faulkner? Councillor Turton? Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. I don't see why not. That'd be fine.
If you just ask the council, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Okay. We've got Debbie Snyder here, and I'm sure she's got more important things to do than sit in here, so would it be okay with council if we move that item ahead on the agenda?
Need a motion? Yep, I'll move that.
Moved by
Second it.
Councillor Turton. Second by Councillor Caldwell.
Wow, it's better than Ralph.
You have your PhD, don't you? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, we'll deal with it's item number 14. A site plan approval for Ben and Debbie Schneider. Okay, Bill, you'll take her from there.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The site plan approval report is item 12C14, so it kind of came in late in the agenda copying procedure, but I also included on your desk today is a copy of the site plan so that you can follow through with the report. This property has been purchased by Ben and Debbie to develop the lands for a car wash. It's at the intersection of Hutchison Street and the Highway 9. They propose to build a 256 square meter or 2,755 square foot car wash. This land was previously owned by the town and sold to another landowner for redevelopment purposes, and certainly from a staff perspective, we're pleased to see something move forward on these lands. The zoning was approved to permit automotive washing by this council not too long ago, and so this site plan approval simply implements that zoning bylaw and will allow the applicants to move forward. What's indicated on the plan is a fairly sophisticated approach to paving the lot where everything flows over the surface toward a depression or retention area out by Hutchison Street. That's the area you can see on the right-hand side of your drawing. It has a kind of a riprap inlet to it, so the water will flow off the parking lot into that area and be released into the ditch at a slightly slower rate. That stops things from overflowing. We've reviewed this at our staff level with our building and fire and public works clerk's department in our meetings. We do conduct regular meetings to go over the various developments, and generally we're supportive of this. The public works department would like to go over the grading and drainage details with the engineer just to make sure this is going to be work the way we hope it will work. One of the options that we talked about was, could there be a little less fine grading on the parking area and drain everything to a catch basin and then do the stormwater retention. The issue with that is the depth and the fall on the property. It's a fairly shallow site, so there's not a lot of fall. So we just want to double check that the engineers are comfortable that this will work. That doesn't mean the plan has to come back to you. I think we're recommending that it be approved by you, subject to the normal conditions that we would have a development agreement prepared and they'd complete the work within 2 years, and that our public works would have one last look at the sewer water servicing and the grading and drainage, just to make sure before it gets a building permit that it'll work appropriately. So that's our recommendation to you. Is there any questions?
Councillor Caldwell.
I just wanted to see where the entrance is. There's one off Hutchison Street, is that correct? Is there also one off Aurora? No?
The highway entrance is not controlled by the town, so
Right.
MTO would not grant an access, yeah.
Brian, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to comment with Bill, I spoke to the engineer today and everything's fine. Just,
Oh, good.
Councillor Elliott?
That grassy retention area where the water's, the pond where it's gonna drain off to, now is that, rebuild that at our cost, or how's that?
May, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, they're building that and they're maintaining that.
Okay.
They're also going to landscape the site. You see some trees on there, so.
Right.
I think with the project and the maintenance, and it'll look a lot better than it does now.
Absolutely, that's the way to go.
Great.
Trying to make it a bit of a showcase, and we've worked hard with the developers to try and get some landscaping in them, in the site plans, so.
Well, I think it's really crucial to get the drainage right, because shortly after being elected, I had a call from the chap that owns the storage area there, and he was concerned that drainage from that lot was going to end up on his, and I assured him that we wouldn't allow that to happen, so I'm hoping that we can keep that promise. Okay, any further comment?
Maybe over here.
Sorry?
We have a large swale going down the one side. I think that's what those arrows are on.
Okay.
So that.
So this is the highway here then?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, the pond is going to be at the front of the property?
Yes.
Good. Councillor Turner?
Through you to Debbie. Debbie, it's been said forever that we would not get an entrance to that property off of Lower Street. And I said this at the last meeting. We were told the same thing in Palmerston, where Tim Hortons is going. And my question is, have you asked him personally?
We haven't actually asked them personally, but we heard MTO won't approve it, so
Yeah.
we've
That
actually
would
never
have been
put in a
county,
form to
wouldn't it?
MTO.
What if, that's the way it goes through the county?
In Palmerston, it was the county. Here, it's the MTO, and
MTO or worse.
they're pretty, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to ask, see what would happen, but and I don't know whether it was us that told you that, but I'm pretty sure Triton would tell you that too as well, the
Triton, I
engineering.
think, said they won't approve it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I would hate 2 years from now for you to realize then that it was a possibility, so.
Yeah,
The other question I have is 10, is that 10 parking spots along the side?
it will be 10. We require 10 for the site plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is there potential to put anything else on this once this is established, or is this all that they can put there? Like a convenience store or something else that might?
I would say there's potential there for future development.
Someday we'd like to build something else. We don't know what. but
No.
That's why we've potential putting it closer to Hutchinson.
No. Great.
Right.
So that's the reason that the car wash is situated where it is on
Correct.
this lot?
Yep.
It's good. Any other comments, questions?
Good. Beautiful.
Okay, are we having a bylaw later on this? Or is
No,
another
just a
meeting next
motion
week?
here to approve, subject to the, motion to approve the recommendation, I think.
Okay. We have a Councillor Faulkner, Councillor Elliott to approve the recommendation for the site plan for Ben and Debbie Schneider. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope we didn't spoil your day.
You made it joyful.
Never heard that.
No, that's first.
Yeah, that is the first.
Happy customer.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so now we're going back to what, staff reports? We've already had the first one, have we not?
Yes.
We've dealt with it. So we'll move on to the County Wellington Clerk Joint Compliance Audit Committee. That's
Me
you,
again.
Bill.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, members of council, in the 2010 election, Minto chose to have its own compliance audit committee. There was a movement amongst the county and the member municipalities to go with the joint compliance audit committee. The purpose of the committee is simply to deal with any questions related to councillor expenses that may come out of the election. And I certainly believe it's appropriate to have a joint committee. Committee is made up of people who have expertise in this area, so it should be people with municipal experience, accounting experience, business experience, that kind of group. They're rarely called upon, but we are required to have it under the Elections Act, and certainly it's our recommendation, my recommendation, that we go with the county and have the joint committee. It just is more efficient for everyone.
Any questions, comments?
It's my understanding, Mr. Deputy Mayor, sorry to interrupt, that at least 2 others have already approved this so far, and the rest are yet to come. So.
Okay, do we have a recommendation then to?
There is a bylaw on this one later on, but just accept to the report and proceed with the Joint Compliance Audit Committee.
We'll do that now and then pass the bylaw later?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll move we accept the report.
I'll second it.
So moved by Councillor Turton, second by Councillor Caldwell.
Good job.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Hey.
Opposed? That's carried. Alrighty. Clerk's assistant, special event Heritage Days. Peg, are you doing that?
I'm lost.
Okay, so there's 2 reports before you today, and the first one is the a road closure for Heritage Days on the 14th of June, and basically it's to close the road, Elora Street south from Arthur Street to Mill Street. They're going to have sidewalk sales, the car show, so no parking on the street, as well as the closure of the street. So there is a bylaw to close that street to be considered when your bylaws are read. Any questions?
Look like it, Peg.
Just a motion
We do
to,
them separately. So we have a recommendation, the council receives the clerk's assistant report dated May 22nd, 2014 regarding the road closure Heritage Day and considers a bylaw in regular session closing Elora Street south from Mill Street to Arthur Street between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Saturday, June 14, 2014. Moved by, do you have a question?
No.
You're moving it? Thank you.
I'll second it.
Second by, moved by Councillor Caldwell, second by Councillor Turton. Any discussion? All in favor?
okay, and the second special events report is for the Clifford Road Toll fundraiser. Last year, this event happened the August long weekend, and this year they have changed the date to the second weekend in August. So it's Friday, August the 8th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, August the 9th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're not requesting a road closure, but they do need council approval to go ahead with this. And so the recommendation is to receive the report regarding the Rotary Road toll for Friday, August 8th and Saturday, August 9th to support the club fundraising within the town of Minto roadway.
Mover? Councillor Elliott, second. Councillor Faulkner. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Floating slab.
Item 5, Terry, CBO.